Hey guys, welcome back to the Unemployables. Today we will be talking with two very good friends of mine who are going to be dropping some amazing knowledge on you guys. We had an incredible discussion. Their names are Tyler and Brittany Powell, and they are the branding and marketing gurus that you definitely want to learn from. Stay tuned and check it out.
Become unemployable.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Unemployables podcast. Today we've done it up a little differently. We've got Tyler and Brittany Powell, two longtime friends of mine who actually helped me launch Rugged Legacy Grooming Supply. These guys are going to be dropping some knowledge bombs on you, so get ready for the ride. So Tyler, Brittany, nice to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I couldn't resist getting you guys on. So I guess we'll crack it off with tell everyone a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm Tyler. I'm from Chesney, South Carolina, big booming metropolis in the upstate.
800 total people.
Yeah, 800 total people.
God.
Some of them are actually cool. But no, it's a great place to grow up. And I'm a graphic designer. And I'm married to this beautiful lady right here. I'll let her introduce herself.
And I'm Brittany, and I'm from Spartanburg as well, not from Chesney, but
Big city girl.
yes. and then so I'm a designer as well, and also do development for websites. And we founded and started a design business after freelancing for a while and jumped ship and moved abroad.
So you guys do like graphic design, branding work. You guys did all the branding stuff for Rugged Legacy, didn't you?
Yeah. Branding, packaging. We do other design assets, marketing assets, web design and development, social media marketing. Really, like the list goes on.
Design, huh?
Yeah.
So did you guys start out with graphic design then, and then just kind of expanded and just kept adding more stuff onto it, or was it like kind of right off the rip you went with everything?
We kind of started with graphic design. We both have degrees in graphic design, and we actually met at a job where I was a graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we started our relationship, I decided it was probably best for us to not work together. So I another job, and she stepped into the graphic design role at that job because she had finished her degree. And so, we're both coming from the same place with the same kind of background. And so, it started out graphic design, but she's kind of a wizard with custom websites and lots of types of coding that I don't really have a good grip on. So,
Well, my degree included a few web design courses. So part of like the inspiration of getting out of the job that I was in is that like I wasn't even able to put those to use at all or keep up with like standards for that. So leaving and freelancing on my own enabled me to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Well, a lot of people, don't really look at it that way. That's kind of interesting. You said that you had a degree that you weren't able to utilize. Well, at least utilize in the way that you wanted it. And a lot of people will go to college, get a degree, and then just be completely fine with where they are doing something in a completely different field. So I think it's interesting you actually took the steps and implemented action into, I got this degree, I paid for it, I'm going to use it for what I got it for.
Right.
She kind of had to, because where we're from, Spartanburg, it's probably not the greatest place for creatives to really make a really impactful career for themselves. We both had design degrees, and we were basically, we had decent jobs, but we were both basically just churning out functional things that could be printed on something. There was very little creativity, very little freedom going on. And I mean,
It became very robotic.
yeah, almost like trained monkeys, you know what I mean? And that's not why we went to school and got degrees. You become a designer so that you can make something beautiful.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, really, she had to step out on her own and do something different, because where we're from, there was really nothing that would give her that.
Now, if you want to be creative, you've got to go to Greenville, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's definitely a step up.
Yeah.
Greenville has come a long way. I'm quite impressed with everything they've done.
I will say, the next time you guys come down, you need to let me know, and we'll go down to the new, I think it's just recently been improved in the past 5-6 months, downtown Greenville. They've opened up a whole lot more down there.
Really?
Nice.
I've heard that we are even going to like see so much different things going on even in Spartanburg. Like they've just grown and evolved so much there. So
Yeah, we haven't been home in 3 years, so it's going to be pretty different.
Wow.
yeah.
You haven't been to the States in 3 years?
No.
Yeah. It's been 3 years ago this in summer. So
Mhm.
I mean, why would you? I mean, you've got everything else at your fingertips. I mean, you're in Europe, so in South Carolina, you drive 3 hours east and you're still in South Carolina. In Germany, you drive 3 hours east, you're in Prague.
yeah.
That's kind of been part of the hard part of getting back there, is like we look at the money it's going to cost to go back to South Carolina. And then for the price of this one trip to South Carolina, here's a long list of really awesome places that are going to cost less and take less time to get to, and we'd still have money left over to go eat at nice places and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make that decision, but at some point you miss family and friends so much, you bite the bullet and go.
Well, of course.
So
would you say, you guys initially said you moved abroad, which I know the backstory, but why don't you tell everybody what actually triggered that decision to go abroad? Because there's more places here in the U.S. that you could go to live that creative lifestyle. What was it that was the catalyst that said, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of everything and I'm headed to Europe?
Well, I think for one, when Tyler and I met, one of the big common things that we had was we both wanted to travel. We both have not been to our dream destination. He wants to go to Ireland. I want to go to Australia. But we basically have wanted to travel our entire marriage, and we bought a home that was a townhome that we could end up renting out, and the goal was to be there only 2 years, and that we can, ultimately just get up and move abroad or travel indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
But the trigger was probably ultimately your job situation changing. Yeah. I mean, we kind of said we would, but
I was working a corporate job as a designer at one of the biggest printed packaging manufacturers in the world. And the production facility that I worked at in Spartanburg was closing down. And I had the option of relocating to a very small town called Batavia, Illinois, which is, if you think Chesney has nothing to do, you ain't seen nothing yet. So the prospect of doing that was not very exciting. And so it kind of felt like, we had been talking our entire relationship, not just our entire marriage, about how much we wanted to live abroad at some point. And then when that happened, it's like, the choice was get another job in Spartanburg, where again, it would be safe and comfortable, I guess, but we would still just be in Spartanburg. I would still be in a job that wasn't very creative like Brittany used to be. She had already kind of gone out on her own at this point, but just the thought of getting another job in Spartanburg and staying there wasn't anything exciting. And so we were just like, you know what? I think this is like the universe telling us it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're just kind of waiting for the sign all the time, and it's happening. You're just like, all right, well.
Yeah.
I think like too, I mean, we had already said like, okay, we're going to move abroad. We're going to go to Berlin. And then we were like, well, our son wants to start middle school this year. And this is like his first year. And he's so excited about the lockers and all this crazy stuff, which we're like, it's middle school. But, you know, and we were like, well, maybe next summer. And then his job thing came up. And it was just like, well, we could go look for a job in maybe Charlotte or Savannah or New York or, you know, across the country. But ultimately, what we wanted to do was travel around Europe and travel around the world in general. And, you know, I'd been listening to way too many travel podcasts, but you know, it was just like one of those things. Well, why don't we just move there and then we can use it as a hub and travel all of these different places? I mean, it's a lot cheaper. We can actually do what we want to do. He can join me in growing the business and all of that stuff. And I mean, live a freedom-based lifestyle, basically.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we looked at several places in the States, Seattle, Denver, Boston, New York, Savannah, Georgia, which is like one of my favorite places in the whole world, but still the cost of living in those places.
Oh yeah.
Still pretty high.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with a desire to travel in Europe, we started looking into the cost of living in a lot of cities over here. And we're like, this makes no sense. Why would we move to like Denver or Seattle or whatever when we can move to like Berlin or Prague or one of 100 other cities in Europe that actually have a lower cost of living? And then we can actually live out our dreams. I mean, we can take trains for 2 hours to the next country instead of just being like stuck in one place.
Well, and I think too, a point of that is that we could leverage a European city that has a lower cost of living and use that to help us balance out a new business that's growing and maybe is not like super profitable yet. And our income just went a lot further over here than it did even in Greenville. Like even still in Berlin, I think the prices are still lower than they are in Greenville. And I mean, we're in like one of the biggest cities in Europe. So, I mean,
that's a really good way to put it, calling it leverage. Because it's like because out here, like I started my business back in August. Jeff went live January. Daniel bought his last year. And like all three of us are kind of right at that, like different levels, but not quite at the point yet where it can fully sustain us. And like maybe we would be if we were in towns like Berlin or somewhere where the cost of living is lower. And so it's interesting. We're like, if you have the opportunity to move, why don't you? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that was a big thing with Prague. Prague is, you know, we've lived in Prague for the past 2.5 years, and the cost of living there is a lot lower. You know, even your income requirements are only like, I don't know, like around $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. So, you know, if you only have to make $1,500 a month, that's a lot easier for a new business to really leverage that and jumpstart that and not, I mean, it gives you the ability to like really focus in on growing the business and not having yourself split in like 15 different ways to grow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it provides an element of freedom. And I think that's what the entire point of entrepreneurship is freedom. You know, you want to be locationally and financially free. To do and go where you want, but still sustain yourself and make a living.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's part of what makes it scary too. Like, I mean, like you said, you know, maybe you're not quite at the point where it can fully sustain you, but that's what made it scary, because coming from Spartanburg and paying the cost of living that we were paying for the life that we were living, it was kind of hard for me to wrap my head around how are we both going to work from home and make this happen. But when you take it out of the context of Spartanburg, South Carolina, and go, like, we went to a completely different culture, completely different governmental system, everything. I mean, it worked out better than we would have thought, because not every place is like Spartanburg, South Carolina. You don't have you don't have to live the same life that you lived in suburbia in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Changed everything.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think super attractive about travel. Like you go somewhere new, you can pretty much reinvent yourself.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
you kind of have to, I think, to some level, because like the culture is just so different. Like their mindset and lifestyle. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you have to conform to everything, and we definitely don't, but you know, their way of life and their mentality on things definitely have an impact on you.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, some of it's good, some of it's not so great, but then, you know, I think like overall, I mean, we're happy living here, so
That's what matters.
I say it's a success.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he did something similar. Like he decided he hated his job and he wanted to go do something else. And so he took the severance, I think, that he had from his job or whatever he had saved up, and went to Thailand for a month. And found a fully furnished, high-rise apartment for like, I want to say it was like $600 or $700 a month, like cleaning service included, all this stuff. And he took that month and taught himself to code. He learned Ruby in a month, more or less.
Wow.
Like, just the basics, and started building like small apps. And now he owns his own SaaS company, and just he and his wife got married a few months ago, and they were like, let's look at our lifestyle in New York City, which is where they're based out of, and then let's see where that could take us. And so they realized they could travel the world for the entire year and spend less than they were going to spend on their established lifestyle in New York City, which is crazy.
Yeah. I think that's like something that people don't really even realize, that like even traveling indefinitely for a year straight is going to cost you less than your apartment in X city. I mean, it doesn't even have to be New York where it's stupid expensive.
Right.
It can be any city and you're probably still going to spend less, especially if you want to.
Well, and taxes you don't pay U.S. taxes if you're gone for more than 300 days out of the year, I think. Is that right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. 335, I think.
Okay.
Or something.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
It's a nice little loophole.
Yeah, in case I got
Yeah. And as a couple, you can make up to $210,000 tax-free. So, you know.
That's significant.
I'm going to put Maya on pause. I'm going to go tell my wife to start packing. I'll just tell the kids to catch up once they get out of school today.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what kind of hurdles did you guys face when it came to leaving your jobs, leaving these kind of corporate stable environments and saying, we're out?
For me, I think, I mean, the company that I was with gave me a severance package as well, because obviously them shutting the facility down, even though I had an offer to continue with the company, they gave me the same deal that they gave the people that they were just cutting loose, which worked out really well. So I had a bit of severance, and I mean, mostly for me, the hurdle was mental, like leaving a corporate job where I work X amount of hours per week, I take home this much money, and I know exactly how far that goes in terms of our monthly expenses. Safe, comfortable, I can rely on this. And so it really was all mental. Like, how can I go from spending 40 hours a week at this place that I'm really good at what I do? They pay me pretty well for doing it. How am I going to go from that to sitting at home with you and working and somehow still making all this happen? It was like a really hard thing for me to get past.
Yeah, I think like you really appreciated the security of a weekly, or I don't even remember what it was now, biweekly, whatever, paycheck that was just consistent.
Yeah.
You know, being a freelancer is not necessarily a consistent thing because you're paid by projects. So getting to a level to where you are paid consistently is quite challenging for a new freelancer, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I quit my job 2 years before we left, I think.
Yeah, I think
Something
so.
like that. I felt, and it didn't really have a whole lot to do with travel as much as it had to do with freedom. Although after I did quit, that was like, we went abroad twice that year for the first time ever, which prompted this whole series of things. But, you know, for me, it was like I was hitting a wall. I was at the top of the totem pole as far as like, I can't move up in position. They're not really in a place to pay more money. I felt like I was not able to pick up my kid from school. Half of my money was going to daycare. You know, I felt guilty every time I took off to miss an appointment or a sick day, or feel like all this like stress and guilt, and then piled into the fact of like, I've always wanted to own my own business. And I was just like, I mean, I was miserable about every day coming home from the job because they wanted me to work like through lunchtime and then till 6. And I'm like, I am not that type of person. I value my freedom. Like, I need personal time. I need a lunch break. I need to, you know, be able to spend time with friends and family. And I was like, Tyler, I have to quit. So I did. And
that discussion didn't take too long.
But, you know, I think like it led to such a good stream of events. I mean, it was scary, but for me, I did have his paycheck until then. Like, he still supported all of our main bills and everything. So while I was building up different clients and stuff like that, it did give me the ability and the flexibility to not have so much pressure. I mean, we did definitely have to cut back our spending and our finances, but I mean,
all in all, it was a good decision. I mean, like she said, half or more than half of her paycheck was going to daycare because, you know, she was working this job all the time. So what is even the point if we're forking over like $500 a month?
Daycare is the worst.
For somebody to pick the kid up.
Imagine how I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was pointless. I mean, what we had left over was, I mean, it wasn't worth that small amount of money for her to spend so much time away from home when she could just start building something for herself.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
also, I mean, we were just spending it on fun things anyway. So.
Yeah. Brittany, I've got a question for you. Since you were the first one of the two of you to take that leap, and you said you'd always wanted to own your own business. Do you feel like the reality of owning your own business matched the expectations you had, like for the idea of the thing in your head? Because I mean, when you're in a job in a 9-to-5 and you're thinking about owning your own business, you kind of romanticize it, right? Like, you're like, oh, it's going to be so amazing. Oh,
Always greener.
not listening to anyone else's bullshit. Oh, it's going to be great. And then you get into the thick of it. Do you feel like your reality met your expectations, or where do you think there was a mismatch for you?
I think there was probably a mixture of both. I was the type of employee to kind of start taking the reins and taking over things. And if the manager wasn't available,
I'm certain Tyler can verify that.
100%.
I'm the type of person who like, I like my own rules a little bit better. And so for me, like, running my own business and doing my own thing and setting my own hours is just like my comfort zone. Now there definitely was challenges and has been challenges in like, you know, managing your time and managing what it looks like to work from home. But to me, it was still, you know, such an exciting experience to break loose from the 9-to-5 change. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, there were pieces that maybe like, I was like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? But then like 2 seconds into that thought, I'm like, hell yeah, I did, because there's no way I'm going back to working for someone else, telling me what to do and telling me I can only make this much money. I mean, to me, it's a lot easier of a thought process. Like, I just don't, I don't know. I don't mind telling people what to do, and I don't mind getting stuff done without having someone tell me what to do. So
Yeah, that's great. What do you guys feel like have been some of the more discouraging moments since you've started this journey? Because, you know, I mean, I left my job like a month ago, and obviously things don't always go as planned. And then I'm listening to Seth Godin's book, The Dip, right now, which is like learning when to quit things and when you should push through. So how have you guys kind of balanced that idea with some of those more discouraging or disheartening moments? And what were those like? How did you get through it?
There were some really discouraging moments, I would say, a couple of years ago when we were living in Prague. I mean, owning your own business, especially when you're only a couple of years into it, you're going to have great months and you're going to have bad months. And there was a while there where we hit a stretch and there was like a few bad months in a row. Like a lot of our go-to clients just, they didn't have enough going on to be coming back to us in the way that they had been. And so that was really discouraging. I mean, it was kind of freaky there, because 1 month is okay, but then 2 months it gets a little worse, and then 3 months it's like, okay, this is getting a little out of hand. But I mean, like it kind of triggered in me kind of like a natural instinct, you know, like if an animal in the wild feels threatened, it's fight or flight. And flight wasn't really an option because we were in Prague, and it's not like you know, it's not like my parents live down the street and we can go stay with them for a while or something. It's like, no, there is no hiding, there's no running or anything. You have to like pick yourself up by the bootstraps, get in there, get new business, contact new people, get some projects going, and like get money in the door. And we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing until that happened.
So,
yeah, and I think
you have your back against the wall. You don't have any other choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
not
really.
I think living over here really, I mean, I can't say for sure how it would have gone if we were still living back in the States, surrounded by friends and family who we could rely on. But being over here by ourselves and going through a rough patch like that, it really was a back against the wall moment. Like there is no safety net over here.
Yeah,
like,
you're playing the game on hard mode.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's also where, you know, we were able to leverage the environment we were in.
Mm-hmm.
We were also, you know, one big thing, and even speaking to, you know, what you're saying about Seth Godin and stuff, like what to say no to, like a big challenge for us was defining what to say yes to, what to say no to, setting a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of being a freedom entrepreneur, you're kind of like, oh, you know, I'll work whenever, you know, today I'll just spend all day at the park. Well, not if you want to make money, you know, not if you want to grow a business, and especially in those early stages. Maybe, you know, after your business is established and you have like 30 employees, you can do something like that, or have like systems galore. But I think, like, you know, for us, a lot of it was like, okay, we have to set a stiff work schedule. You know, we had to realign our goals. Like, what is it that we are wanting to do? What is it that we want out of life? What is it that we want out of our business? And then when your back is up against the wall, like, you're like, okay, now how do I move forward into that? How do we get past this? How do we, you know, move? I mean, it was kind of even a mindset shift at that point, I think, you know. And I mean, I guess that's just really how, like, we push through it. I don't even know.
Yeah, no, I love what you just said. The fact that, like, if you're not working, you're not making money. And I think that's what so many people just don't think about when they're in their 9-to-5 and they're like, oh, my boss is a freaking moron. I'm tired of this shit. I'm just going to quit. And then, oh, I've got all this freedom. Like, I can just wake up late. I can do whatever I want. I can go to the park. I can just jack around all day. And then they're like, oh, wait, I'm running out of money. It's like,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
shit, because it's not like you quit and you go to La La Land. Like if you quit and you want to make this work, you're gonna bust your balls.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it can take a while to get off the ground and in the air. Like there's sometimes when I'm on a plane and I'm like, is this bitch going fast enough to get off the ground? But like it always happens because the plane is doing exactly what it's supposed to do and what it needs to get into the air. And that's trucking as fast and as hard as possible down that runway to get some lift in those wings. So
Yep.
I love that you said that. That was a really great rant you just went on, Brittany.
I'm sure Tyler's heard plenty of Brittany's great rants, but
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I also really like what she said, especially when she mentioned systems galore in order to have that extra element of freedom that people are after when they go on to an entrepreneurial venture.
Mhm.
Now, what systems do you guys use and have in place? Because we have a lot of people that are in our unemployment group unemployables group.
Yeah, we're paying unemployment checks, right?
Hey, if things don't work, they go the other way. But no, we have a lot of people in our group that are at that stage where they're looking to implement systems. Now, what kind of systems do you guys use to keep yourselves on that track of, okay, I have to be dedicated to this, but I can automate this in order to have that freedom for your family time and just, personal relaxation?
Well, automation. I automate anything that can be automated, and I'm always looking for new ways to automate anything that can be automated. If it can be automated, and I can't even remember who said it, but it should not be hired out. It should be automated first. There's a robot who can do it for $20 a month. So part of us, one thing that we implemented to organize our projects is a project management system. Originally we were using Asana. This year we have changed to ClickUp. We organize all of our projects in there. Anything that is a to-do item in our business goes into there. It gets assigned to someone. It may have sub-checklists. But all of the project details are in there. And then from there, there's different pieces that get automated out. So maybe like to plan social media schedules, or to plan maybe this project is assigned to this person. We have it automated through a platform called Zapier that kind of pushes all of these things to these different people or to a spreadsheet. We automate, or we have systems for, our accounting. We have our thank you cards sent out automatically. That's like a little secret of ours, but it gives like a little personal touch, and I think it goes a long way. And I think if it wasn't, there's chaos everywhere. So systemizing things like that, we do, even though we both work together and most of the time in the same office, we use a platform called Slack for team communication. And so if we have to talk to each other about a project, we type it to each other. We don't email each other. We don't interrupt the other person and say, hey, can you talk to me? We type it to each other. And to me, it's easier for us to stay in the same mindset of the project that we're on, but also in order to, I think we just get things done faster. And then as we've added things to our team, not things, people, though they have come in.
True colors are showing.
Yeah,
same thing, right? But they've kind of been able to come into that platform with us. And every single time we're doing things like Slack or project management or anything, I'm constantly thinking about, okay, is this going to be just a you and I thing to know? Or is this going to be able to grow into, we're hiring out Johnny over here and Johnny's going to be able to know? because ultimately our goal is to get as much off of our plate as possible and step more into that CEO entrepreneur role so that we can have complete freedom and vacay 2 weeks out of a month every month. But, we can't do that as long as we always are micromanaging or having our hands into it. So I don't know if that answered your question entirely.
It did, actually. It really did. We actually utilize Slack with the unemployables.
Yeah.
What's great about it is you can add the different channels. So if you have something, you have each channel for each project. I can only imagine how convenient that is for your organization.
Yeah. And robots. We have little robots that automatically tell each other things or tell someone else.
Yeah.
We do website maintenance and support, and we have developers who do that thing, and I can keep track of all of that in Slack instead of worrying about my inbox. So it just goes straight in and is organized.
Yeah. It's been really helpful because we have people who do design work for us, and we have people who do website maintenance and website edits for us, and through a lot of the systems that Brittany has set up, because she's an organization freak, I literally can type in a message on a platform, and that message turns into an email to these people telling them exactly what I need done, and then they're just going to get it done. So it took me 4 seconds to type this message up, and it has turned into something super productive.
Yeah.
That's really a huge time saver.
I want to add to that. I think one of the best quotes I ever heard about entrepreneurship is the job of the entrepreneur is to be the best at everything until they hire someone better.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Man, that has rung true.
Yeah, that hits the nail on the head for sure.
We have so many different hats.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially as you get to the point where you're about to start hiring people. I think that might be a spot where a lot of entrepreneurs stall out, you hit a ceiling where it's you have to hire people, but you don't quite have the money to hire people yet, but you need to, because you're never going to have more money if you don't. And so you wind up in this doldrums area, right, where there's no wind at your sails. You have power, and you're where the fuck am I going to go from here? And so you make a decision there.
Well, and that's been probably one of our most recent challenges, is that we have gotten to the point, and although we've kind of outsource some things, we've gotten to a new level where we have to start hiring people. We have to start outsourcing things or finding more robots to do things for us or something, but it is always a challenge, because you're okay, well, that's going to dip into my profits. And it's totally a mindset thing to get around, because you can't grow without them, but you can't grow with them either. I think I just confused myself.
The way I've always kind of seen it go, and this is true in my own experience, you get busier and busier and busier and busier. You hire something off or something changes and you drop way back down, and you got free time, but you're not making as much money. Yeah. You get busier and busier, and you hire something off and you drop back down. And it's but every time it steadily goes up more and more and more every time, where that money you're making at the end, right before you hire someone new, is substantially more than it was before the last person you hired.
You're basically just jumping from one plateau to a slightly higher plateau, and then another slightly higher plateau once you reach once you peak off, and then you're having to settle in for a little ride for a couple of months or a year or so, and then boom, you get more progress, next plateau. And so it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, you have to do that, because the whole point that you're starting your own business or going out on your own is to break away from the situation where you're told this is as much money as you're ever going to make. And so when you get to that plateau and you're I can't make any more money than this,
because you have no more time.
If you're really an entrepreneur and you're serious about this, hire somebody so you can start climbing to the next one.
That's a very good point, because if you don't make that jump, it's the same thing as not quitting your job.
Yeah, you're putting limits on yourself, just like your boss was putting limits on you before.
Then all of a sudden you can't go on vacation, you can't take days off.
Exactly.
If you're sick, you're still working while doing the flu.
You pretty much just bought yourself a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically. And hopefully it's one you enjoy more than your 9 to 5. But
Crossed.
anybody who's overworked, working 80 hours a week and can't make more money, you're going to face burnout. And
Absolutely.
huge thing in the entrepreneur world, because you're wearing so many hats and you're doing all the things. And, you know, if you keep on hitting this wall and you're also not able to like make more money, then you're going to get burnt out. Even if you are making more money, I think you'll get burnt out.
Yeah, for sure.
The money is like, I mean, at the end of the day, it matters, but like not in your day-to-day,
Right.
Right.
like, not in your day-to-day happiness.
Seeing the sun and not sitting in a chair for, you know, 20 hours a day, that is, you know,
It's hard to put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So question about the kind of money related. How much do you each make? Totally kidding. When you started out, because you guys essentially took freelance skills and then have kind of turned that into your own agency, more or less, correct? So then when you were starting out, how did you guys go about finding clients? And then how has that process changed from when you started as freelancers to now, where you've kind of got this agency built out? And what does that look like today? Do you have like a sales team? Do you guys still kind of handle that, or is it outsourced? You know, all those details I think would be super helpful for our listeners.
We both started out. So when we started freelancing, obviously Brittany started a couple of years before I did. And one of the big things was, what was it called? Elance.
Yeah.
Elance.com, which is where freelance designers, developers, I mean, pretty much you name it, if you do it freelance. It's a platform.
I believe they changed it to Upworks now. It's the same company.
Yeah, it's Upwork now. And so she got started on that and got some pretty solid clients. And then fast forward 2 years when I started, then it was Upwork, and then I started on that.
Well, and a lot of the clients that we got off of there have become recurring clients.
Yeah.
So our goal on there wasn't to just make $50. Our goal on there was to find a client who wants to make a long-term relationship with us and wants to continually have our help in growing their business.
Yeah.
So every single time it was like, okay, we already set those expectations with the client. Like, we would love to work with you. You know, we are looking for a long-term relationship. We hope that, you know, if you're happy with this project, that you'll want to continue and do more with us. And I mean, it's worked out. And then they grew, they refer other people to us. Like 98% of our business is pretty much built on referrals. And well, maybe not 98, but pretty close. It's in the 90s for sure.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm still on Upwork, but I have the freedom to be much more picky with the projects that I take on now. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for people who don't just need a one-off like flyer or logo or whatever. I'm looking for somebody who says, I want to work with one designer for all my needs for the next X number of years because I'm starting this business. Those are the people I'm going after. Yeah. Instead of, you know, snatching at anything I can get my hands on like it was in the early days.
Yeah. But I mean, I think like with those, like we've done, I mean, mostly referrals, mostly recurring clients that we've developed a relationship with. And then we've also done some marketing. So we get some from like social media, mostly from like Instagram. Yeah. Instagram's a bigger place, I think, for us than like Facebook, but we're still present on there. And then we plan to continue to increase our marketing, and hopefully really we're starting in a new era of the business, I think. Mm-hmm. And so we're really trying to make a bigger impact and really grow our business, I don't know, tenfold, I guess. Yeah. Like we're, you know, it's not just referrals, but hopefully everybody we find, the goal is always to make them happy, continue that relationship, and hopefully they'll refer us to other people. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was certainly the case with me. I think I've referred you guys plenty. I know you guys have gotten several people say them out. But I will say also that the shots that you guys got of the Rugged Legacy products in Berlin were absolutely beautiful.
Oh,
No,
thank
thank
you.
Even the ones with me in them?
Yeah, even the ones with you in them. You're very Tyler. You're very pretty. I don't know. I don't know if I told you that in the email or not.
Beautiful man, Tyler.
Very beautiful man.
You're too kind.
Uh,
I mean, that's what we want to do with everybody. But like I said, I mean, not all clients are like you. You were, you were very open and trusting with us. I mean, obviously, if you pay a professional to do this kind of work, it's because you realize that you're not as good at it as they are. And so, I mean, for you to trust us with building the brand and coming with all creative ideas and doing photography just off the cuff like that, that's a lot of fun for us. You know, it's way more fun than the person who comes and says, I want this logo done. Here's exactly how I want it done, and do not deviate from this. And we're like, oh, so this is going to look like crap, but okay, I'll do it. You know, it's a lot more fun to do it the other way.
Yeah, I find myself looking over the Pantone file you sent me going, I can't deviate from what Tyler and Brittany told me to do. I have to do what they told me to do. I think I get a creative idea and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, what would Tyler say? No, because
you know what I would say.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's really how it should be. I think at the end of the day, like when you do get into that fully like actualized entrepreneurial role, which in my mind is the CEO. I mean, we all take different paths when it gets to that, but I think that that's kind of it. It's about finding the right people to do the right thing, you know, putting the right people in the right position to succeed best. And then in return, you succeed the best out of that.
Yeah.
So I think it says a lot about an entrepreneur or a business owner in general, when they can just completely trust you with their product.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and really, as you hire out through your entrepreneur journey, I mean, you have to hire people that you can trust and that are ultimately going to have the best interest for your business and help you grow your business, not hinder it, not, need hand holding and whatnot. Like, you hire them to know what they're doing and, that's how you're going to grow your business.
Absolutely.
What do you guys wish you had known when you started out doing all this stuff that you know now?
I think I wish that I would have started doing it while I was still working, because I feel, to your comment earlier, I just get paid 40 hours a week no matter what. Like, you can totally use that time, you can totally, in most scenarios, leverage working full time to build a business rather than just jump off the deep end and start from zero. I think that's one thing. I think
if there's one thing I wish I would have known, I mean, it's something that I technically knew, but just not to the degree that I probably should have, is that doing this kind of thing, especially working from a home office like we do, self-discipline is crucial. And I mean, I'm a guy who really enjoys reading, watching movies, playing video games, playing guitar, writing music. Pretty much everything except for working goes on my list of things I love to do. And so, like in Prague, in our apartment, it was quite a small apartment. I mean, it's Europe. It's not, we don't live in the penthouse or anything here. My desk was literally 3 feet away from my side of our bed. And so all day, if I was tired that day, I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, there's my pillow. It's really hard. And I mean, some days, obviously, it's harder than others. Some days you feel like crap and you have a headache all day, or some days you have a cold, but you can't take your foot off the gas, and you have to be really strict with yourself. I mean, even though we own our own business and we work from home, I get up at 5:45 every day, and we don't stop working until 6 every day. I mean, it takes dedication and it takes commitment and a lot of discipline. And it's come in stages for me to learn that level of discipline. But man, if you don't manage your time correctly, I've seen what can happen when you don't do that, and I'm not going to let it happen again.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't tend to realize that, you know, the whole point of, you know, getting your own business going and becoming an entrepreneur so that you can manage yourself the way that your boss was managing you, but you actually have to manage yourself.
Yeah.
You know, your boss held you accountable to a standard, and you have to do the same thing if you want it to take off and actually flourish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think like that was like one thing we started doing when we started saying we are going to work these set hours. Is I was like, well, boss Brittany said that I can't get off today to go do this thing. So sorry. Employee Brittany has to still work because boss Brittany's mean.
Yeah.
I got to get better at that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things I'm working on.
Yeah, Nick's boss is kind of a puss. Just lets him do whatever he wants all the time.
Yeah, he just keeps taking off and going to the mountains. And
These guys think I wake up super late because they're on Central and East Coast time. So by the time I wake up, Jeff's already done with his day.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that we did though is start working earlier so that we can stop working, you know, earlier. Like, you know, we do take, a pause between lunch and like 4:00 every day. And, you know, another thing is tracking our time. So we started tracking our time so that we can actually like see, okay, oh, you know, it doesn't just feel like we work 6 hours or 8 hours. Like we can actually see how long we've put in. And especially like when you have such a random schedule, it helps you to see, okay, I've actually sat here for this long. And then 9 times out of 10, you're like, oh, okay, I did work 6 or 8 hours today. You know, not too bad. I'm actually not doing as bad as I thought I was. Or maybe you are, you know, and then you're like,
You're doing
oh,
worse than you thought.
yeah, maybe you only worked like 1 or 2 hours or, you know, 1 or 2 minutes. And then you're like, well, that's probably why nothing's happening.
Right.
But it gives you that visual accountability to like say, okay, this is why this is working, this is why it's not working, and then how you can leverage it to grow your business more.
Absolutely.
I just really like how she keeps using the word leverage, because that's totally what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what, Dan, in your editing, we're just going to call this episode Leverage. And that's going to be it.
Leverage everything in life.
Yeah, we all have a friend named Nate who teaches financial education, and his entire premise is leveraging your money. And you know, it's just constant leverage this, leverage that, and it does play into both fields, whether it be financial education or entrepreneurship. So I really like that you keep bringing that up.
It's probably because I've listened to a lot of people like him. So the word leverage is just stuck in my head now.
It's just there now, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I mean, and I'm a little late to this book, but I've been reading The 4-Hour Work Week, and that entire book is
that
about
one's by Tim Ferriss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The entire book is about leveraging your time, leveraging your employees, leveraging your finances. You know, even like if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like not how can you make more money? I mean, yes, ultimately, but how you can leverage the money you do have to make more money.
Yep.
You know, it's not all about like, oh, I'm going to make 50 extra bucks this week. It's how can I use the $100 I already have to grow that. And
Nate is going to love you guys, because Nate is actually in the unemployable. So when you guys come in for the Q&A, Nate's going to just love everything you say. I promise.
Awesome. We're ready for you, Nate.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's great. Nick, you want to dive into your questions? I feel like we're getting towards the end of this here.
So I always like to ask this, if there was one like philosophical thing that you've learned over the past couple of years of like going out on your own and all of that, like one thing that would just kind of change mindset, or like one big paradigm shift you had. I have an idea what it is, but put it in plain English. What would it be?
I think possibly for me, it would be that time is the most valuable currency that you could ever have.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do with your time is way more important than what you do with your money or with your clothes or with your car or with anything you have. Time is the only thing you can't make more of. You can't buy more of it.
Yeah.
You can't ask somebody else for more of it. If you're given this amount of time, and it's up to you what to do with it.
Time is precious.
Yeah.
I think so.
That would be my
I think there's an old saying that says, no amount of money ever bought a single second of time.
exactly.
It does.
I like that.
And that totally folds into our travel side of the lifestyle. Like
Yeah.
many of our goals are to travel, and in order to do that, we need more time.
I mean, that whole idea is behind the decision that we made to live the life that we live, because I mean, honestly, like going out on our own and starting our own business scared the crap out of me because I was so comfortable and so secure. But what scares me more is thinking that I might get to the end of my life and I have this ridiculously long list of things that I always wanted to see and do, and I didn't get to do them because you don't get another chance. You get 75 or 80 years and you're gone. That's it.
Yeah.
And so that the fear of getting to that point completely overrode the fear of what happens if we can't pay our rent, what happens if we don't get any clients, what happens if we have to fly home with our tails tucked between our legs. That fear went out the window when I thought about, like, I get one shot at this. And a lot of people that we know, they put, you talk to people who are like 55 years old and they're like, oh, when I retire I'll go see Germany or I'll go see Rome or whatever. And you're like, when you retire, you'll be walking around Rome with a walker or getting pushed around in a wheelchair. Is that really going to be the same experience for you if you wait till you retire? And I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to Switzerland and sit in a rocking chair looking at the mountains. I want to go to Switzerland and climb the mountain when I'm in my mid-30s, not when I'm in my mid-70s.
Yeah. Damn.
That's good.
In our 70s too.
These two people right here are the proto entrepreneurs. They literally lay out everything we sell entrepreneurship on to the members of the Loyalists.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got this whiteboard I bought the other day because I love whiteboards. But you see that number right there?
Yeah.
17,330.
Right.
I calculated out the other day the average life expectancy for somebody like me, and got back that I have about, like, what is it? Just over 40 years left, like until I'm about 76, because that's like the life expectancy, and I broke that down into days.
Oh my God.
Every
That's such
day,
a great thing to do.
so it started at I started like 10 days ago, so it was like 17,340, and now I'm down to 330. But every morning I come in and I wipe that number off and I write down what I've got left, like based on
That's
average.
awesome. I mean, that's exactly the kind of like inspiration you need to, like, I mean, anybody who is on the fence about, can I really go grab this life that I want, or is it better for me to just sit here and do it?
Right.
That's what everybody needs to do. Put that number on the wall that makes you stare your life in the face and say, this is what I've got left.
Right. Do I want 10 years retirement? Or do I want half of my life of retirement, which half of my life is 3,000 days from now, which is like 9 years out. So it's like, I've got 9 years to get to a point where I could retire and enjoy the entire second half of my life if I wanted to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, like, not only has it brought my mortality into view, like, yeah, I'm going to die one day. And I think I don't think anyone lives with that in mind. Like, we're all going to die, and you have to live with some sense of urgency with that in mind. But it also has brought to the forefront of my mind, like, 17,000 is not a big number. Like, I've only got a little bit of time left, and I need to, not only do I need to work hard, I need to make sure I'm enjoying it. And
you
that,
need to
like,
leverage
every day. Yeah, I need to leverage it. So that was just an experiment I started within like the last week, just to see how it would affect me. And it's given every day a much stronger sense of purpose than it had before.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because but I do think like much to that point, many people are, and especially like more around our generation, are making that decision to not work until they're 75. I mean, by the time we even hit retirement, it's going to be minimum 70 before we can technically retire. But as entrepreneurs, that goes out the window anyway. But like, I mean, we can't wait around our entire life. And a lot of people that we talk to make excuses. Well, I have kids, well, I have this job, well, I have this house, well, I have this, well, I have like 1,500 things that my grandmother gave me. And at the end of the day, it's all an excuse because you're not comfortable and you don't know what to expect. And you really have to get past that, and you have to just do it. Mm-hmm. You have to push forward and you have to do it, or you're going to regret it.
Yeah. Damn. I think that's as good a spot as any to call it.
For sure.
Did on that note, Jesus.
Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
That was the perfect closing statement. Now I know why Brittany wins all of the arguments.
It's because I don't even participate at this point.
Well, you stay in your lane and you do what you're good at, which is just agree. I got you. All right.
That's right.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Tyler,
thank
Brittany,
you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, guys. It was great to meet you.
Yeah.
You as well.
Tyler, Brittany, where can people find you if they want to connect with you on social or find your company, your website, anything like that?
Our website is brittcreative.co. It's Britt with 2 T's. And basically, same handle for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all Britt Creative Co. And you can go online. We are mostly hanging out on Instagram, but also hanging out on Facebook. We have a chat bot on our website, so you can also reach out directly there. And if we're available, we'll respond back immediately. So
awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah,
no
thanks.
problem.
Become unemployable.